Last night was the most important game for the New York Giants since 2016, since the boat game. People remember that, which they lost
How could we
to
forget?
the Green Bay Packers in Green Bay. It was basically a playoff game. I mean, the Commanders are still technically in the playoff race, but
But really wild because like coming into it, like obviously we know this, but I just think like the circumstances were so interesting to me that it was this divisional matchup, second in the last 2 weeks basically, and both teams at 7-5-1 with the tie being to each other. Like
yes,
it was just couldn't be closer in terms of like what it meant for both teams to like what it would mean for them to win the game to have this crucial tiebreaker. Almost the most literal sense of a tiebreaker in that the two teams had only fought to a draw before, so someone had to win this one to basically
right.
break away from the pack. So it was very exciting even going into Sunday night. Just
Even
like the
though it
implications.
doesn't, neither team has an explosive offense or a quarterback that's going to make you say "wow."
Right, right.
But the weight of it made the game
Totally.
exciting, even if it wasn't very high scoring. And the Commanders have a tougher road now because the Lions won, and we'll talk about that game in a little bit. But the Lions have the tiebreaker over the Commanders. The Lions beat the Commanders earlier in the season. So I don't. If I were to guess, I would guess that the Lions sneak in over the Commanders. But we'll still see how that shakes out. But the Giants just did a much better job this time around of neutralizing the Washington defensive front, which did not have Chase Young again this time. And there was a weird tweet by Ian Rappaport essentially saying, Chase Young's being held out of this game, and both sides are in total agreement on this. And I was like, okay, you're really overcompensating a bit there,
The
it
Nathan
sounds
Fielder
like.
tweet. My friends are smiling just off camera.
Yeah, right. It makes me feel like Chase Young was not happy.
Everyone
and
is very
this was
trying
trying
to pleased about this arrangement where Chase Young is not playing.
So that seemed like a little bit of a weird, some weird phrasing. However, still without him, Montez Sweat had some plays against Evan Neal, who's still a bit green, who had some false starts where you just see, wow, he's got some flashes. He's really great, and then you have that interior, which is incredible.
He's so athletic. He's really athletic, but it's like as soon as like the discipline, like he's so big and he's so athletic that as soon as the discipline comes in terms of like avoiding costly penalties, like he will just be he will. I feel like him and Thomas will basically just be anchoring the line.
Oh,
for
they
like,
will be.
for
I mean,
like 10
I have
years.
no,
So, yeah.
I have no fears about Evan Neal in his rookie year. I mean, maybe
It's
that's
just
naive.
no, but it's early though, and I think if he can stay fit and just like avoid penalties, he's just going to be a very difficult guy to get around. And
I just have worries about the interior. But
yeah, because with Feliciano and Glowinski,
I mean, they're
and,
none of those guys on the interior are the long-term answers.
No,
I mean,
definitely
they
not, for
drafted
sure.
Azudu in the third round, and he just needs to beef up a little bit. But he's had some decent starts, especially for a third-round rookie. But regardless, I mean, the middle of the line played okay. The game plan was better at neutralizing that front, and they just have to roll Daniel Jones out a lot.
Yeah,
But
oh,
he
yeah.
did stay. What changed the nature of that game was there was a drive where the Commanders pinned the Giants within their own 10. And the Giants had an over 90 play drive, which included a throw from Daniel Jones on 4th and 9 to Richie James. And that
yeah,
changed the game.
that was wild.
They ended up
That was-
scoring on that drive. And you could see Jones is being coached to be very efficient. But when they say put the pedal to the metal, you get a little scared because there's no receiving talent at all. Like, at all. And Bellinger had a bad drop this game as well. But so it's like you're on pins and needles when he's making these needle throws because the receivers can't get open. But he decided to put the pedal to the metal on that drive, and it was really all the difference from the offensive side of the ball for the Giants.
I think you meant 90 yards, right?
What did I say?
I think you said 90 plays.
Of 90, 90
like,
yards.
wow.
That would be.
They were just going up and down the field,
Yeah.
back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
but
DJ,
yeah.
that was very impressive because, like you said, the degree of difficulty in terms of not only knowing like where their receiving talent is, but also like the down and distance. Like that is not that is some coaches are scared to go for a 4th and 1 like closer to their end zone than Dable was willing to go for 4th and 9. And I know, and it's very interesting to me, these types of decisions, because what frustrates me is like, to me, I'm of the mindset that I'm like, I like a coach, especially in a game like this, being ballsy, basically kind of trying to set the tone and set the tempo by being like, we're going to take this risk and see if it pays off. But of course, it's unfortunately a matter of outcomes with these things sometimes too, where it's like, I love the 4th and 9 play, but I'm sure like if it didn't hit, then people would be like, "Oh, that's so stupid." Like it was 4th and long. Like why would you go for it? Whereas like either way, I'm kind of like, I don't know. Like maybe it's because it worked, but I'm also happy with it because I think it actually kind of upped the ante for Washington's defense, and also being like, "Oh, okay, like they're going for broke here. Like
Yeah.
we may have to as well."
I mean, Dable just has such big balls on him. I mean,
He
big
really
balls,
does. And
Dable.
since week 1, since the going for it against the Titans, I mean, this has literally been like his MO of like kind of just trying to give the team a shot in the arm when they need it in plays that really count. And it's great that he has confidence and faith in his team to continue to deliver on those types of plays.
Yeah, Daniel Jones does not have really high end ability with his arm necessarily. He's a very clean motion technically with the way he throws the ball. It's perfect, but the high end talent, he's not the quarterback I think of the future for the Giants. However, he's a tough SOB, and he gets hit and he makes big throws when he needs to. But really, we're bearing the lead to a degree with what stood out in this game.
Yeah.
And that was Kayvon Thibodeaux.
Oh, I'm so happy about this.
I mean,
I know because I feel like we were talking a little bit how he was in the beginning of the first half of the season. He was slightly inconsistent. You would see,
and he was coming off injury.
Right, he was not super healthy. You would see flashes of what he could do, and I feel like this was the game. I think was it against the I don't know if it was against the Cowboys, or there was one game before this where I was like, oh, he did look like he was coming on. But this, to me, I was like, this is like the peak of what you could get with a guy like Thibodeaux, where he's disruptive all over the place, and he's just, you see what a guy now with the control and with kind of like the game speed catching up to his athleticism, what he can do.
Yeah.
If this remains consistent, like he just wrecked the game. Like he was just creating space and getting after Heineke and these Washington linemen like with zeal.
Yeah,
with abandon.
To me,
it was awesome.
Kayvon Thibodeaux, the last time that he had such a good game was against the Cowboys in Week 3, or wait, what was that, Week 3 when they lost to the Cowboys? Now I'm like, being
not pre-Thanksgiving.
Yeah, yes,
right?
it was Week 3. My
Yeah,
memory is okay. So he that was his best game, I believe. Or no, he didn't play that game. No, it was the other Cowboys game where
the
they
Thanksgiving
lost.
game.
Yes,
yeah.
where he was coming on, and that was a primetime game as well. And you heard him being quoted at one point saying, he thrives in prime time. How do you feel about prime time? And he's just got a great personality. Clearly, he's going to go into media no matter how his career ends up. I mean, he could end up being average his whole career, and he'll be a wonderful media personality no matter what. He's Michael Strahan 2.0, except funnier than Michael Strahan.
That's what I was going to say, is like, that's what I love too about, for specific guys like this, where they're young and they're kind of ready for this moment, and like aren't kind of afraid to like be confident and give a quote, and like not like be too scared of like the pressure that might be on someone of being a rookie for the Giants. And like it's great to see like that, all of that stuff, the intangible stuff, then also match up with him having like a game breaking type of performance.
Yeah, so that was incredible and really good for him. He definitely had his breakout game. And Thibodeaux, to me, I was lower on him than some of the other pass rushers. I mean, I do think that he's not going to be a Bosa brother, or even Aiden Hutchinson, or a Myles Garrett. He just doesn't necessarily have the build to be, I think, a superstar in that way. But he can rush the passer. He was showing off a variety of different moves last night, which I thought was really great. He's doing the bull rush, trying to go from like just made overpower the lineman, but he was also showing off his finesse, so he can get to the quarterback in different ways. And he just didn't give up on that play and scored that defensive touchdown. And the defense was what mattered in this game, and also some
And
questionable calls from the refs, which we'll get into as
what's
well.
interesting with Thibodeau too is like this was a game too where I feel like you were seeing the stuff that was always coming up in his scouting reports coming out of Oregon, which is that he has like a crazy motor, like essentially doesn't give up on any play, doesn't ever kind of look particularly gassed or winded, and is just kind of like relentless in how he comes at people. And also he's lengthy and he's got great bend. Like
Yeah.
he's very his flexibility and also just his athleticism. Like he really is just like once he's kind of getting going, like a really hard person for flat-footed or back-footed linemen to kind of get a hold on or kind of get a
And he's smart as hell. I mean,
Yes,
he's sharp.
definitely,
That's the thing about
absolutely.
him too, is I think that he's really smart and understands how to approach the game. And the front four needs to step up with the Giants having these injuries in the secondary, because you can see when the front four didn't get home, Terry
Yeah,
McLaurin was catching
right,
balls all over the field
right.
because the middle of the Giants defense is horrible. The linebacking core is horrible. I mean, Jalen Smith, I looked up his age. He's only 27, but he's lost a lot of steps, and
I couldn't believe
he'll make plays out of necessity. But the Giants linebacking core is horrible, horrible, horrible.
I don't think I knew Jalen Smith was on the Giants.
Yeah,
I was like, oh,
it's essentially
oh, okay.
another one of these guys that they've picked up off the street in order
Right,
to make their
right.
defense serviceable. But yeah, the Giants really big win. They'll get blown out in the playoffs, I'm sure, if they do make it. But they play the Vikings next week, and I guess that they're gonna lose that game. That's just my guess. But we'll if they do make the playoffs, it's a huge win. They have a bottom five roster in this league, and it's a huge accomplishment for Brian Dable that they're even in this position right now.